think it's important to recognize that there are several dimensions to this strike.
Okay.
It's not as straightforward as others would want us to believe.
Right.
The first complication is simply that it's not all the nursing associations which are on strike.
Right.
Indeed, it is the Ghana Registered Nurses Association which has declared a strike action. I've heard representatives of other two nursing associations, say very clearly that they are not part of the strike. And they've gone on to say that the Ghana Registered Nurses Association has treated them with gross disrespect and so on. And therefore, they were unable to lend their weight to the strike action, even though they consider the demands legitimate demands. That's an important dimension which we ought to take into account in this conversation. Now, the other dimension is typified, or is brought into full relief by a story which was actually told on Radio Gold yesterday morning. There's a doctor, medical officer, who says that he has to carry out surgery on a midwife. And he doesn't have the courage to continue the process because of the strike, because he doesn't know whether complications would develop after the surgery and how that would impact on the health of this midwife. So he calls the midwife and says, look, I'm afraid that your surgery cannot come on. And the midwife's response is that she will make some special arrangements to take care of her recuperation. That's interesting. That's interesting.
What is this special arrangement?
She works in the hospital, so she can get nurses to come and look after her.
Interesting.
Because she works in the hospital. She can make some very special arrangements for her care. I'm just wondering, how many Ghanaians, if they find themselves in this situation, can make special arrangements for their care, their after-surgery care? How many? The Kayayes, the taxi drivers, the trotro drivers, the peasant farmers in the rural communities and so on. If they are faced with this situation that this midwife faces, would it be a sentence of death? Could it be a sentence of death? So that's another dimension that we have to look at. Then, of course, there's the dimension of the enjoyment of democratic rights by all citizens. And all citizens have a right to withdraw their services. The right to strike is a democratic right. How do we enjoy this right or insist on enjoying this right, without consideration of the consequences in some instances of the enjoyment of this right? That's another dimension that we've got to be looking at very, very seriously. Then, to what extent would we condone illegality? That's another dimension. Because from even what you read this morning, this strike was declared illegal by the Labour Commission. And last night I was hearing that a court had also affirmed the position of the Labour Commission that there's an illegal strike.
And they'll take a decision by consulting their lawyer. That's what they said. They said they've not been served.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter whether they've been served or not. There are processes that unions, associations, and so on have to go through before the declaration of strikes. So strikes can become illegal. You understand? Do we condone illegal strikes or we don't? That's another dimension. Now, the other dimension simply has to do with the health of the economy, and that is the position that the finance minister and other people in government appear to be advancing. And they're saying that, look, this whole package, including the 13th month pay, that the nurses are saying that they should be given a 13th month pay.
Yes.
So they'll be paid for 12 months, but there'll be a 13th month pay. You understand? And they're saying that, look, all of this will throw economic management out of gear.
So let me perhaps let me walk viewers through what their demands are, or you'd want to land before I do that.
No, I'm just pointing out the
Okay,
complexity of the matter. It's
That's
not a
fine.
very simple matter.
That's fine.
There's another dimension which has to do with the health of the national economy
Right.
and the possible ripple effect that this industrial action could create. You understand? So I'm unable to piece it all together, but there are different dimensions to this industrial action by the strike. There's one other, and perhaps you would help us to verify the story. We are told that the leader of the Ghana Registered Nurses Association actually declared a strike and jumped on a plane and left.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. Fact. It's
Is
not
it
a
a
hearsay.
fact?
Yeah, she's out of town. In fact, the
She
minister
declared a strike and flew out of the
Yes,
country.
the minister said one of the difficulties he has in even dialoguing with the leadership of the association is because they're out there.
So how is the matter going to be resolved when the leaders have flown out of town? And how are their members taking this situation where their leaders have declared a strike and are not available to engage government to address the very concerns that they have raised? That's another dimension, which I find extremely interesting. Let me say interesting for now. You declare a strike and you fly out of the country. You don't want to be reached. You cannot be reached. Your demands cannot be discussed. Unbelievable.
But why are the followers tolerating this? The followers, why are they tolerating this?
But I've raised that issue also.
Oh.
Because the members of the association, you have leaders who have declared a strike and who feel so responsible that after declaring the strike, they leave the country, they cannot be reached. What?
That's it. She's out of town.
Unbelievable. I mean, I can't believe this. But there's another dimension.
Yes.
Okay. So, as far as I'm concerned, look, there is no worker in Ghana whose conditions of service are satisfactory.
True.
No worker in Ghana. Now, if you go to the ministries, you find senior staff who cannot make ends meet. Everywhere you go. I mean, the economic situation has so deteriorated that everybody is struggling to make ends meet. You understand? So we need to understand that the nurses may have very legitimate grievances. But is it only nurses who have legitimate grievances? I don't think so. The cadres of the political parties, if you go to the New Patriotic Party, workers at the headquarters of the New Patriotic Party were complaining bitterly 2-3 weeks ago. They haven't been paid. They haven't been paid since January. You understand? Workers in the headquarters of the New Patriotic Party are complaining. They have a legitimate grievance. Many cadres of the National Democratic Congress are complaining that they don't have jobs and that they expected that when their government came into power, job openings would be available and so on. There are no openings. They are still unemployed. They are struggling to survive. Now, you talk to commercial drivers. Just talk to commercial drivers. Many commercial drivers are unable to make daily sales. And if you don't make daily sales, car owners take the vehicle from you and you become unemployed.
Yes.
So commercial drivers go to money lenders at the end of the day. When they are not able to make their daily sales, they go to money lenders and borrow in order to pay their daily sales. That's how bad things are for commercial drivers and so on. So we are living in a country in which the working people really are suffering. And their demands deserve concern. And I'd like to place this nurses' strike within the general context of economic hardship for workers and so on. Now, how do we resolve this? Do we resolve this by recourse to strike action, by different sections and so on? How do we resolve this problem? These are the issues that we face. Because, look, we can resolve the nursing strike today and wake up tomorrow morning with sanitation workers' strike.
But the mortuary workers are also...
And then you resolve
You've
that.
heard about the mortuary workers?
Yes, you resolve that. And then the next day, the doctors are on strike. And then we resolve that. And then the next moment, engineers are on strike. And then the next moment, commercial drivers are on strike, and so on. This is where we have gotten to. So we need to find a solution to this crucial problem of an economy which is not able to meet the needs of its people. That's where we are. That's the issue before us. It is not just a nurses' strike, but a general problem of a failing economy which is not able to address the concrete needs of the people, whether they are peasants, whether they are nurses, or whether they are truck pushers. This is the crisis that we face.
But you see, I get the point, but safe to say that in this particular instance, an agreement had already been reached, by the government of Ghana, whether MPP or NDC. An agreement had been reached. And so for these labor body, they are not dealing with a party government. They're dealing with the government of Ghana. And so we came to you with a proposal as government of Ghana. And you gave a counter proposal, back and forth, back and forth. We agreed on something. And then we signed. And that's why they call it a collective agreement, which is supposed to be would serve as their conditions of service. Never mind the fact that there was another group made up of about 80 or so who decided to go to court because they said, this collective agreement is not good for us. It doesn't serve our purpose. And so they went to court, back and forth, back and forth. January this year, the court gave the final verdict. Now, as far as they are concerned, now that the court has given its final verdict, it then paves the way for the in their view, smooth implementation of this collective agreement, or basically an MOU which we have signed. Okay, Kwesi. So, question for them is that, why did you agree, this deal with us, and then turn around to say the economy can't take it? Do you get where they're coming from?
Yeah.
So which is which?
No,
That's what the problem is.
I fully understand the issue you're raising.
Yeah.
But there are some nuances which can also not be ignored.
I agree.
I mean, you're talking about secession. So NPP was in power.
Yeah.
Whatever commitments NPP made are deemed to be passed on to whoever assumes power after NPP. So to that extent, you're right. That's the correct legal position to take.
Right.
But you see, at the same time, it's important to realize that one government may feel that, look, we can sacrifice other things in order to cater for a particular need. Another government may come and say, no, I don't think that we need to sacrifice X, Y, Z in order to cater for another need. That's also reality, which we have to be confronted with. So we had a situation where this agreement was reached with the NPP administration. And then there's a new administration which has come and says, so let us develop a roadmap for implementation. As a matter of fact, I haven't heard anybody saying that throw the agreement away. They're saying that let us develop a roadmap for implementation.
In fact, there are two issues. Let's develop a roadmap. But before we develop the roadmap, can we take a second look at of this collective agreement? Because the current administration honestly thinks that this is too much to bear, even going forward. Now, the nurses are saying that we can't renegotiate because it is even against the labor laws.
No, it does appear that we are.
So that's where we are
hearing from different sources.
Okay.
Because as I was driving into the studio this morning, I heard Mr. Akando, the Minister for Health, saying that, look, we sympathize with the nurses.
Right.
We know they have legitimate grievances and so on. But let us sit down and develop a roadmap. Okay. Now, some of the nurses are saying that, no, we are not going to sit down to develop a roadmap because that would be a negation of the agreement.
Yeah.
That's the argument they are making. So whatever it is, I would, if cool heads will prevail, advocate in the immediate convocation of a labor government forum to discuss not just the issue of nurses, but all the problems that confront organized labor and non-organized labor. So that there's a blueprint which applies to everybody. It needs to be done now, because otherwise we're going to head into crisis. And we're going to head into a crisis which is not the fault of the current government. The current administration came and met this crisis, okay? But the way to solve it is not to deal with nurses separately, deal with teachers separately, deal with drivers separately, deal with engineers separately, and deal with doctors separately.
Right.
We need to have a comprehensive approach which takes account of all the difficulties that we encounter, and an approach which also recognizes that the working people are suffering. An approach which recognizes that there are many workers whose so-called take-home pay is not sufficient to pay for transportation from home to work and back to home. That's the reality. You understand? There are people in this country who are getting 500 cedis a month, and they have wives and children, and so on. So we need to review all of this together.
Right.
One, we want industrial peace. We don't want economic collapse, and we want to improve the conditions of work and life of the working people.
Right.
This is what we want to do.
Okay.
And we need to create some very, very special forum immediately, to address this question. This is not a problem for the Ministry of Health. This is a problem, is a multi-sectorial approach that we need to do now.